Michael Bennett was living the American dream. He had a loving wife, 2 beautiful children, and a small business he'd built from scratch. Life wasn't perfect, but it was good, until one fateful night changed everything. A drunk driver, just 21 years old, ran a red light at high speed and crashed into Michael's car. The impact was catastrophic. His wife didn't survive. His youngest child, Emily, suffered injuries that left her permanently disabled. And Michael, he walked away with scars, both physical and emotional, that would never fully heal. The driver, a young man named Ryan Harper, was arrested and sentenced to prison. But for Michael, the sentence didn't bring closure. It brought rage. Every time he looked at his daughter struggling to walk again, every time he passed by the empty chair at the dinner table where his wife used to sit, the anger consumed him. For years, Michael lived in bitterness. He couldn't sleep. He stopped talking to friends. His business suffered because he couldn't focus. The weight of his hatred was crushing him, and yet he couldn't let it go. How could I forgive someone who destroyed my life? He would ask himself late at night. One evening, as he sat alone in his dimly lit living room, staring at a photo of his late wife, Michael fell to his knees and prayed. He cried out to God, asking for strength he didn't think he had. "Lord," he whispered, "I don't know how to forgive him. I need your help. Please give me the power to write this letter, to take the first step toward healing." That night, something shifted inside Michael. He felt a peace wash over him, a calm he hadn't felt in years. The next morning, he sat down at his desk, trembling but determined. As he picked up the pen, he whispered another prayer. "God, guide my hand. Help me say what needs to be said." And with each word he wrote, he felt lighter, as though God himself was holding his hand, guiding him through the pain. He ended the letter with these words: "I don't know if you're ready to hear this, but I forgive you. Not because what you did was okay, but because I need to move forward with my life, and I believe God has called me to extend this grace to you." When Ryan received the letter, he broke down. For years, he'd carried the guilt of what he'd done, convinced he didn't deserve redemption. But Michael's words gave him hope. They sparked a conversation between the two men, a slow, difficult process of healing that began with letters and eventually led to face-to-face meetings. Months later, Michael agreed to meet Ryan in person. It was an emotional moment. As Ryan entered the room, his head hung low, unable to look Michael in the eye. He expected anger, judgment, rejection. Instead, Michael stood up, walked over to him, and extended his hand. But it wasn't just a handshake. Michael placed Ryan's hand in both of his own, bowing his head slightly as if in prayer. "God brought us here today," Michael said softly, "not for revenge, but for reconciliation. I forgive you, Ryan, and I believe God forgives you too." Ryan collapsed into tears, overwhelmed by the weight of Michael's grace. In that moment, something miraculous happened. Not just for Ryan, but for Michael as well. By choosing to forgive, Michael had not only freed Ryan from the chains of guilt, but had also released himself from the prison of bitterness. Over time, something remarkable happened. Ryan, inspired by Michael's forgiveness, turned his life around. While still in prison, he earned his GED and started mentoring other inmates about the dangers of drunk driving. After his release, he became an advocate for road safety, speaking at schools and community events to warn others about the consequences of reckless behavior. As for Michael, forgiveness didn't erase his pain, but it lifted the burden of hatred. He reconnected with old friends, rebuilt his business, and found joy in raising his daughter. Together, they even started a foundation to support families affected by drunk driving accidents. And through it all, Michael continued to lean on his faith, crediting God for giving him the strength to forgive. Michael Bennett's story reminds us that forgiveness isn't something we do alone. It's a gift from a higher power. When we ask God for help, He gives us the strength to let go of anger and embrace grace. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing what happened. It means trusting that God can use even our deepest wounds for good. So I ask you today, is there someone in your life you've been holding onto anger towards? Could turning to God for guidance be the first step toward healing? If this story moved you, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Forgiveness is a journey, and we all need reminders along the way. I'd love to hear from you. How have you experienced forgiveness in your life? Have you ever struggled to forgive someone, or has someone forgiven you when you didn't expect it? Take a moment to reflect on these questions. What's one situation where forgiveness changed your life, or could change it now? How do you think asking God or a higher power for help can make forgiveness easier? What's one step you can take today toward letting go of anger or bitterness? Share your thoughts, reflections, or even your own stories of forgiveness in the comments below. I'd love to read them and support you on your journey. And don't forget to subscribe to Wisdom Path for more stories that inspire hope, healing, and transformation. Together, let's spread the power of forgiveness, one heart at a time.